家好，欢迎来到电影娱乐报，我是主持人陈巧玲。首先呢，要推荐给大家的是农历新年的开春强片《黑豹》，它是改编自漫威旗下的同名作品，也是第一位来自非洲的超级英雄。不过呢，这位英雄很不一样，他是非洲国家瓦干达的国王。虽然国际社会误以为是贫穷的第三世界国家，但其实却拥有地球上最先进的高科技，而且呢还拥有丰富的超级金属钒合金。据说1公克就要价1万美金，这也让黑豹成为了最有钱的超级英雄，有钱程度是远远把钢铁人跟蝙蝠侠给甩在后面。而这次故事呢是要揭开瓦干达不为人知的惊人内幕，精彩的特辑我们就一起来欣赏吧。
I have seen gods fly. I've seen men build weapons that I couldn't even imagine. I've seen aliens drop from the sky.
Yeah.
But I have never seen anything like this. How much more are you hiding?
Hold up. Let's go.
We are home. My son, it is your time.
Show me my respect and bow down.
You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be. Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
The revolution will not be televised.
Show me my respect and bow down. We own ya. We own ya. We only getting started now. Cause we own ya. Everybody think they know me now. Cause we own ya. You and I my homie now. Cause we own ya.
I waited my entire life for this. The world's gonna start over. I'ma burn it all.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out.
Wakanda forever!
The revolution will not be televised.
Let's have some fun.
The revolution will be live.
Well, he's coming off of the death of his father in Civil War. He's returning to Wakanda. You know, there's the high possibility that he will become the ruler. There's division within the country because Wakanda is not necessarily a homogenous group of people. There are different tribes with different points of view, different. They have their own agendas, each tribe, and so they're united by their past and united also by a good king. They need a good king in order to bring everyone together. So he's returning to what could be turmoil. He's returning to a place where he feels a certain sense of guilt because his father was out in the world with him, and there are people that don't believe that Wakanda should even be out in the world. So he's returning to a place where he has to essentially piece everything together and earn his right to be king.
One of the things that was so satisfying about Civil War was, of course, the Black Panther. People came out of that movie going, I want to know more about that character.
You want the wow factor, but it's not just stuff blowing up. It definitely is a character piece.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created Black Panther in the early 60s, and he's been a staple of Marvel Comics 50-plus years.
He's an interesting character. That is going to be such a different thing for the audience on the screen. I couldn't see the Black Panther living on a side street in New York. I love the idea of a superhero who lives in Africa.
He has to look out for an entire nation. That's a responsibility that other superheroes don't commonly have.
Even though he's the head of a tribe, he's a hell of a lot more than that. As his powers begin to unfold, that will be a lot of fun.
Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
I'm super excited about an African king who's also strong enough, fast enough, smart enough to do some of the things that T'Challa's gonna do in this script.
There's something very special about him.
People can see a superhero in a different light, different worldview.
I was enthusiastic about, I guess, how Wakanda was being presented initially. I think it has a great villain in the story. I think there's an emotional connection to his story, which makes the story complex. And I felt like, you know, there was a lot of ground that we didn't cover in Civil War. That we had a lot of room in this one, and they took a lot of room. And so I was enthusiastic about everything that we were about to do.
What I tried to do with my co-writer, Joe Robert Cole, what we tried to do is really like hang on to the themes and hang on to the ideas that made T'Challa in the comics. You know, there's a few things with any superhero you kind of gotta. You know, we would talk to the studio about it too. Like, man, what does he need to have, you know, to be the Black Panther? What makes the Black Panther the Black Panther? And obviously, you got the political responsibility. You know, you got the suit. You know, you got the claws. You know, you got the strength. We got the fact that he's African. Like that's the thing that makes him unique. So when you start talking about performance and things that are, you know, important to him, the things that you want to highlight, the things that you want to make sure are coming across clear to the audience. You know, that was kind of like our grounding things.
What do you know about Wakanda?
Textiles, shepherds, cool outfits.
All a front. How much more are you hiding?
The film's about Panther, but the film's equally about Wakanda. We'll see T'Challa's friends, people we have to answer to, you know, when he's sitting on that throne.
Wakanda's walls have been up since its inception. It's the best kept secret in the world because they have something the world wants.
They have this natural resource that kind of thrives off of. They mine it, they use it in technology. It's very sought after by anybody who's ever come in contact with it.
Black Panther has to look out for an entire nation and then also consider that nation's place and how they affect the rest of the world.
To see an African country with kings and queens and warriors, it's so inspiring. It's just an incredible world to occupy.
Step into the spotlight. Wakanda forever!
Black Panther is a world leader. That's a responsibility that other superheroes don't commonly have. That he has to look out for an entire nation.
Soon, there will only be the conquered and the conquerors.
The Dora Milaje are women who pledged their lives to the throne and to the security of the kingdom. Wakanda forever! My character, Okoye, is the general of the armed forces as a whole.
Okoye represents the old guard and tradition, while my character, Nakia, challenges tradition.
You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be.
Nakia was born to be a warrior. She was born with a warrior spirit.
I got into a disagreement. Made a bit of a mess.
Training was very, very interesting. The Dora have a way of fighting that was supposed to be inspired by moving as one. The Dora work together to take down somebody, like the fight we have with Killmonger.
Step into the spotlight.
Action's there. It's not your typical film. It's raw. It's real.
Step into the spotlight.
Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
Well, Okoye is the head of the Dora Milaje, and in the comic book, there's so many different renditions of how the Dora Milaje fall into all the different type Black Panther renditions you'll read. But in our rendition, which is really cool, it's these women are they're very much they've pledged their lives to the throne and to the maintenance of the security of the kingdom and specifically of the throne. But also in the case of my character Okoye, who is the general of actually the armed forces as a whole and the head of his intel. So she's more than just say in the old renditions, the bodyguard. She's got a much more expansive role than that, and she's deeply involved with all the workings of what's going on in the kingdom. She knows everything. She reports to him. She makes decisions. She's very well known for her abilities as a soldier and as a leader, and that's been very cool to play.
Black Panther was one of the the few Marvel characters, that I could really identify with, as a kid growing up, and really kind of fell in love with Wakanda and this fantasy world where, Africa and Black people were so strong and powerful, and was depicted in that way. It was pretty, so, Black Panther is one of my childhood favorites.
欢迎继续回来。黑豹首次在大荧幕现身，是出现在美国队长3英雄内战之中。当时呢，黑豹的父亲在维也纳遇袭身亡，所以呢，这集独立电影就是要回到母国来继承王位。但国王当然是不好当，黑豹在电影里有大量帅气的打斗场景，特别的是由黑豹装是由钒合金所制成，所以刀枪不入。妹妹舒丽公主打造的改良版本还能够吸取能量。而且呢，黑豹还拥有超级敏锐的五感和智力，可以说是最有魅力、最聪明的超级英雄。而值得一提的是，在本片里面有90%以上的角色都是由黑人卡斯担纲，也被视为是超级英雄片的新里程碑。
It's now or never.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
What makes Chadwick so great for the role of T'Challa in the Black Panther, I think, is that a lot of the things about the character are also true about Chad. He's very knowledgeable. I think that he's an athlete, martial artist, and I think he's at a point in his career right now where he's had a lot of experience playing roles that come with a lot of weight. So I think he has a person, he has a guy has a lot of weight to him, now, and I think all of that stuff translates there. He comes from a big family, where he has a lot of responsibility there, which is so all of those, I think he brings all of that stuff to the role. But not to mention that he's incredibly gifted as an actor and as a performer.
I think he already saw what I was doing from Civil War. And so I think he took that and just sort of moved it into this movie. We seemed like we were on the same page from the beginning in terms of what the character was, what he sounded like, what he looked like, where his strengths were. So our conversations were more about the total story than the character itself.
There's certainly been a lot of excitement about the opportunity to do a standalone Black Panther based upon the way the character was set up in Civil War. Civil War lost his father. Coming to this movie, you're seeing him actually deal with the responsibility of becoming the new king.
We are home.
Wakanda is the most technologically advanced country on the planet.
A big function of how Wakanda works, staying out of the spotlight, staying in the shadows.
It's my responsibility to make sure that Wakanda does not fall into the hands of a person like you.
The amount of responsibility that he has as a superhero and as a king, to me, that's one of the most fun things.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
Sorry!
Remote driving system activated.
Wait, which side of the road is it?
For God's sake, just drive.
Okay, calm down. Woo! Let's go! Hey, look at your suit. You've been taking bullets, charging it up with kinetic energy.
Put around the truck.
Ready, go!
You show off.
We find T'Challa right after Civil War. In that film, his father was murdered in a terrorist attack. He wasn't the intended target, but he was kind of collateral damage. But his father was a sitting ruler, and you find him at a time when he's going through the process of inheriting the throne, and all that comes with that. So he's at a crossroads, you know, kind of in his life in terms of responsibility, but and it's at a time when Wakanda is you know, kind of struggling with that, having an identity crisis, so to speak, you know, and it happens like, you know, it's a generational transition, you know. I think that, and it's interesting because I think that the world is kind of going through that right now, you know, all over, you know, like, you know, younger people are starting to inherit, you know, positions of power, and they find themselves kind of saying, hey, you know, which way are we going to go? You know, are we going to go in a different direction? Are we going to go in a direction that we've always been going? And I think that, you know, T'Challa's position is kind of that.
It's essentially the gateway into what their technology is. It also is a gateway into what their inner conflicts are, because how to use vibranium or whether to use vibranium or not is essentially the conflict between the Jabari tribe and the Golden tribe or T'Challa's tribe. And so it's, you know, in some ways it's almost like a nuclear weapon to a certain degree. It's great that you have it, but how do you use it? And at the same time, you know, it allows a certain amount of flexibility as far as technology is concerned, and also in terms of their traditional spirituality is connected to that, how it affects the plant system or the ecosystem, how it affects him physically. You know, all of that is part of what vibranium is.
I mean, I loved the notion of putting an African story on this type of scale. Like I'm from theater. I'm a playwright. I write about African stories and try to tell them in the Western context. Probably mostly do that, and so it's very much something that I love to see. Growing up as you know, born in the U.S. but raised on the continent, you know, to see African characters put on an epic platform is something that I was always really keen. You yearn for, because you're kind of in this other category and you don't get to see people who look like you, you know, kind of get the type of grand treatment in a story that you see other people get. So to see this type of story get brought to light, and meeting with Ryan and hearing his vision, it was very much something that I was just extremely happy that it was happening at all, and then the fact that I could be a part of it as well was really amazing.
I have seen gods fly. I've seen men build weapons that I couldn't even imagine. I've seen aliens drop from the sky.
Yeah.
but I have never seen anything like this. How much more are you hiding?
Hold up!
Wakanda. Explorers have searched for it for centuries. The Golden City. It's a technological marvel.
We are home.
You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be.
Show me my respect and bow down.
My son, it is your time.
I have great things to show you. It is lighter and completely bulletproof.
Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
The revolution will not be televised.
I think it is the shorthand and the fact that he's like a brother to me. And he knows how to get me to certain points creatively and I don't know. I think our process has always been the same. It's just like, you know, keep it real and be honest. You know, try to be as honest as you can within these moments of the character of the story. So I think staying the same in that way really helps us out through all projects.
In the comic books, you have these female characters that are incredibly important to T'Challa, are incredibly important to the country of Wakanda. You know, and that includes, you know, Ramonda, his mother in the books. You know, Shuri, his younger sister, and who is the heir to the throne, and T'Challa is occupying the throne. You have the Dora Milaje, who are the you know, this all-female guard and warrior unit. You know, they're kind of like the Secret Service if you cross them with the Navy SEALs. You know, and then you have the character Nakia in the film, who's a spy, a Wakandan spy, but also T'Challa's love interest in the story as well. And you have Okoye, who kind of heads up the Dora Milaje and also heads up the Wakandan military. So we have all those characters in the film, and they all represent a different piece of the country, you know, but they also have a different relationship with T'Challa, you know. And this film is kind of a love story, you know, between this country and these characters. You know, every character, you know, feels a certain way towards Wakanda, you know, and they have a particular responsibility to it, you know, as well as towards our main character. So, you know, we thought that was really interesting thing to play with, and also see the relationship that these women have with each other.
Show me my respect and bow down.
I waited my entire life for this. This time, we're gonna be on top.
If the world found out what we possess, we could lose our way of life. What do you want?
I want the throne.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. The revolution will not be televised.
Let's have some fun.
The revolution will be live.
集结了帅气、超级有钱，还身怀绝技，同时也是一国之君的超级英雄黑豹，就推荐给大家喽。也希望你们会喜欢。我是巧玲，电影娱乐报，我们下次再见喽，拜拜。